Welcome to 60 Skills. Today's topic is, what is the relationship between the body and meditation? All right, this isn't exactly going to be rocket science to anybody out there who is used to working with their body. So for the athletes out there, or laborers, or anybody who has a profoundly physical relationship with their environment, again, this lecture is not going to harbor many surprises. The main issue with the meditation and the body, or meditation and your mind, as some people would refer to it, is the body is the mechanism of expression for the mind. While we divide these things up into the physical, astral, mental, akashic, and non-dual light categories, for purposes of training these phenomenon, the reality of the matter is there is no difference between all of them. Everything happens at the same time, and the body is the mechanism by which this is expressed in the here and now. So, if there's something wrong with your body, like say being 20 kilos overweight, your meditation isn't going to work as well, because the mechanism by which the mind has to express itself isn't in very good condition. So this gets into the issue of all of the different forms of body training used in the better meditative systems. 60Skills in particular has a rather extensive system for training the body. The fact of the matter is, the better trained the body, the easier it is for the subtle energies to move through the body, and therefore the easier it is for your mind to express itself in the here and now. Again, for people who have a more physical existence, this doesn't come as much of a surprise. Mainly the reason why I'm giving this lecture is in the West in particular, a lot of people who are attracted to the meditative process come from a very cerebral background, and they don't really understand why training their body would be important. Well, there you go. The body is your mechanism for expressing the function of your mind. But on a more fundamental level, the reality is there is no difference. Because all of these different levels of reality, the physical, the astral, the mental, the akashic, non-dual, all actually take place in the same place at the same time, if there's anything wrong with one of those components, if one of the components is damaged, if one of the components is not working very well, then the expression of the others is going to be compromised. This isn't a very complicated system to understand for people with a background in engineering. If you have a circuit board, if any one of the components of that circuit board, going from the electricity coursing through it to any of the subcomponents or its connectors are flawed, the circuit board simply doesn't work. The analogy in terms of the meditative process is exactly the same. So we train the body in the better meditative circles because it makes all of the other work easier. Well, people go, well, what about Zen? What about this? What about the other kind of system? All right, let's take a system like Theravada Buddhism, southern Thailand. Many people are familiar with this. It is a largely sedentary meditative process that utilizes a lot of seated meditation. Okay, well, if body training is so important, where's the body training method? Well, a couple things come to mind here. One, the only group in Theravada Buddhism from Thailand that has a high conversion rate to what they call arahant status, or people who can assume non-dual light at will, for lack of a better definition, are people from the Forest Wat tradition. Well, the Forest Wat tradition utilizes an extensive amount of body training through what some people refer to as the monk walk. If you've ever seen one of these monks in the wild, and by that I mean actually in the forest, walking around, frequently you'll see them moving at an almost glacial pace across the countryside for hours at a time. What they're engaging in is the astral walk from the 60 skill system. It's the same piece of technology. By doing this for hours at a time, it has a body training effect. And that's the reason why their particular branch is so successful within that tradition. Okay, well, what other body training are they doing? Well, for one, monks in that tradition are only allowed to eat one time per day. They're not allowed to prepare their own food. And the fact of the matter is, this results in many of them being quite thin. Well, diet is also a part of body training. One of the most destructive things you can do for the meditative process is to have excess body mass. It makes getting anything done very, very, very difficult. So if you engage in practices that reduce this, guess what? It helps. Additionally, these gentlemen live a very physical lifestyle. If you've ever been to any of their temples, particularly in the countryside, it's pretty rustic. You're walking around a lot, you're carrying buckets of water, you're chopping firewood, you're doing all this other kind of thing. These are tasks that most modern people in developed countries haven't had to do for a couple of generations. So it's easy to see how if you're walking hours a day and you're not eating much, well, that takes care of a lot of the issues that the body runs into from having too much body mass associated with it. So again, the issue of body trainings is relatively not well understood in most Western practitioners, and is something that more people should consider. So 60Skills has a variety of coursework involving this, utilizing everything from unweighted to resistance training to movement-based training. If you're stuck in your meditative pursuits, look into some of that. Be well.